What's going on, everybody? I am Venue Music Playlist, aka Darth Martin, and I am sitting down with our Artist of the Week, very special guest. This is Infinite7 Sound. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
It's been a long day, but we're getting through it.
I know how that go.
well, tell us a little bit about yourself. What started you making music?
Actually, man, I would honestly say my family. I was always around music. Church going family. They all sing. It's not a family. It's not a never a family gathering that we're not gonna leave without singing songs together. So that was always a thing. But just as far as my immediate family, like I say, my mom, she know how to sing. My sister. And then just come with band wise, my older sister played trumpet, my brother was a percussionist, my sister was a flag girl, so I was around that. So that actually, planted the seed in my head. And then I also like to give credit to my brother and my cousins. Like I said, growing up in the South, we listened to all the Southern music. They always bought all the new music. No Limit was a thing, Cash Money was a big thing in the era. Of course, Texas, the UGK, Three Six Mafia with Tennessee, and just being around just music all the time. It was a thing and I just loved it. So it always just like was a part of me. Music always speaks to a lot of us. We go through a lot of things and you feel like you went in by yourself, then you hear a song like, hey, he talking about some stuff that I kind of went through. So that was like a thing that just stuck with me and I just continue to go with it.
It's like you didn't have a choice, man.
And I didn't. I didn't. It was like I was right into it.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, I talked to a lot of people, and it seems like the family getting you into it, and then you kind of take it and run with it your own way, which you've definitely done. I've listened to a lot of your music. I've got Highway Part Two on repeat right now. If you guys have not
Appreciate it.
listened to this song, absolutely go listen to it right now because you'll
Appreciate it.
wish that it didn't end when it ends.
Thank
It's
you.
so
Thank you.
good. Um, how would you describe your sound if you were talking to somebody that you just met, never heard your music before? How do you describe what you sound like to them?
Good question. I was thinking on that a little bit and I was trying to figure out the right way to say it or the right term to put on it. But I would just want to say, I guess I would just say experimental because like I love everything. I love all music, all genres. I'm very open-minded. So and I'm a student of it and I'm always listening and learning. So things that I hear, I try to be like, hey, I love that. How can I incorporate that into my music, but put my own style onto it. So I would say very experimental. It's a very tasteful, unique, sound you want to say. I try to make my music, of course, resonate to everybody. And I try to make sure that it is very pleasant to the ears. So I would just say, yeah, my music is it's very tasteful, very unique, very experimental. You're going to hear a lot of different things, music wise coming from me. If you follow me, newcomers, you follow me, you'll hear a lot of things, a lot of things you'll probably hear from other genres.
I mean, that sounds pretty accurate. I don't want to, the term all over the place isn't quite right. That's
Right.
not
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
to
See, I
put
didn't want to
it.
say that. That's why I was like experimental. I was trying to think of a way to say it.
Well, let me ask it this way. If you were talking to somebody and never heard you before, and they were like, well, name a couple of bands that you might sound like, who would you point to?
All right, bands or artist wise, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and go with the people that I really look up to as far as when it comes to being very creative when it comes to music wise. And I was like in the ballpark feel of like I don't know how people I know he's crazy, but Kanye, I just think he's a genius when it comes to making beats or production wise. I feel like he's a genius in his own lane. Um I would say probably because I rap. Actually, I was a rapper before I would like really try to start, do this whole singing thing. And I was like in a hip hop band, so a hip hop group. But say as far as like the rebranding I'm doing now, and I hate that he gets a lot of flack because of the way he does his music, but I'm just gonna say T-Pain. He's very creative. He's a really dope artist. I know a lot of people like, oh, auto tune, auto tune. Yeah. Auto-tune still is a great thing. Your favorite singer probably use Melodyne. You don't even know.
I
And
use it.
just ain't nothing wrong with it. People need a little pitch correction.
Yep.
Like so if anything, and I hate to say it, but I would just say Travis Scott. But like I said, it's more so just the way they curate their sound. It's like it's all tailor made. So when I do my music, even if it's a beat that I make or a beat that I get for somebody, I always try to figure out how can I tailor made this beat to me.
Right. Put your unique spin on it. And like
Right.
you named those three people and you don't sound like any of them, but what you're talking about is the way you build a track
Right.
from
How
the
I build
ground
it.
up.
Right.
No, that totally makes sense. And I mean, listening to your shit, man, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
And
makes
you
sense.
know,
Tell me about this latest song. What's up with Highway Part Two, and what's the story behind it?
Highway is like I say, I like to all right, so to kind of put that into perspective, when I make music, I'm a movie head. I'm a movie buff. Like one of my things was to make music. Actually, I'm kind of tied with a couple of companies that do sync music, but when I love music, I love movies. So what I do is I think of a scene and I think of a movie scene. I'm like, what would be the perfect soundtrack to that scene? So when I came up with Highway, I was like, hey, I was listening to a couple of little slow tracks. And matter of fact, it was at night, and I was actually heading home on the highway, and I was just texting my wife like, "Hey, I'm on the way home," just got done with the studio, and that kind of like sparked the little idea. I was like, "Hey, let me just think of a song," because she was like blowing me up, like, "Hey, where you ain't answering the phone?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm on the way. I'm on the highway." So that's a funny story, but that's how it came about. I was like, "How can I just make a little storyline to it?" And that's how it came about. I have like two parts to it, as you know, it's part two. The first part I did with a guy he's from Hong Kong. He hit me up. I thought it was a spam. He's like, "Hey, I ran to your music. I love your music." And and I was like I said, I love experimenting. So I was like, "Hey, I got this track called Highway. I heard some of your music. Do you mind being on it, but do it in your language?" I also got his verse in English as well. So like I said, we just came about, created that. It got a good feedback from that. And I was like, hey, what if I made this like almost a saga in a sense? Because I'm almost thinking about doing a part three, like probably in the sense of being like, hey, I'm on the highway, but like part three is like in a scenario, I finally made it home, or you finally made it to this person. Now you get to get the experience of what happens after the fact. It's the song already kind of gives you a grown and sexy mood, so you can kind of get the idea what I'm going with as far as the
Right.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it definitely elicits the mood. Well, like when I've talked to people about this, and by the way, anytime I'm like just hanging around the house or whatever, one of my kids will walk by and she'll be like, "Highway," and then so we'll just sing, we'll
That's
sing the
dope.
chorus
That's
back and forth.
dope. That's
Um,
dope.
so, but when I was telling people about this song, I told my wife about it, and the main thing that came to mind was the word texture. So, like the texture of the guitar, the scraping of the guitar strings, the way
Yes.
your vocals come in, the way her vocals come in, and all of those textures sort of mesh. Is that what you were going for when you wrote it?
That's wild you say that. That's exactly how I want my music to sound. And the way you described it is a way that I'm thinking I'm gonna from now on describe it to people because I was like, hey, I don't want to sound cliche because everybody say I have this song as a vibe. But I always had this saying like, hey, I want my music to be a vibe. And true story, like the first highway, even the second highway, I heard people say the same thing. They was like, man, this song, it's a vibe. And I was like, I'm glad you say that because I won't the way I do my music is how you say the texture, not only as I'm singing, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not like the best singer that's out there, but I understand music and I understand notes and what matches. I really try to make my voice an instrument as well. So when you say texture, you hear all these layers, and then you hear how like very warm, if I want to say the vocals, and it sounds very luscious in a sense. all my music is like that. I want my music to sound very warm and lush. And I feel like when it sounds that way with good lush reverbs, it kind of submerges you around you when you listen to it. Like when you put on the earbud, you sound like you're within that track as well because it sounds so well layered around each other.
Right. I mean, it just makes you feel like you're there. I mean, there's texture to the song, but there's also imagery. Like, and that's one of the big things about the storytelling that we do as artists is trying
Yes.
to make your audience feel like they're in that moment. So you don't
Yes.
just do it with the story, you also do it with the actual feel, the vibe, the sound itself, which is
And that
kind of a
go
cool thing.
And that goes back to how I say when I make my music or when I'm gonna create something, I think of a movie scene and I think of what would be perfect for that scene. So when you hear that song, you sound like you in that moment, you in that whole situation as well. So
What would
you
the movie
spot on
be?
with that.
What would the movie be if Highway was in a movie?
Oh man, that's a good one. That is a really good one. It's hard to say, and I'm gonna say this. When it comes to anything art wise in the sense, like videography, I would want to do something ground up mine. Like I said, I want to do something myself because it's really hard to me to say what movie. It's just like when I make songs, I just think of a scene out of my own head. But I would feel like I would want to make my own movie, something that will really give that would tailor made to the song as well, almost like a musical in a sense.
So you would probably lean toward like what rom-com musicals sort of.
Yeah, yeah, in a sense. Yeah, like but movie wise, that's really hard to say. That's a good question. I really couldn't even think of what movie.
I think I get an ace for that one. I don't stump people often, so that was a good one.
No, no,
Hey,
that was a good one there.
let's do a fun one real quick before we close up. Tell us a fun fact that your audience does not know about you.
A fun fact that the audience doesn't know about me. Well, huge anime fan. Dragon Ball Z, anything to the day I die. I have a half sleeve of Dragon Ball Z tattoos. Also, I mean, shout out to Sax Man. Let's put Sax Man in this. I hit him up randomly because he's in the community. He plays saxophone.
Right.
And band, I started off in tenor sax. So I do know how to play tenor sax. And I play saxophone. I have pictures. I hit him. I was like, hey, fun fact, guy. I play saxophone as well. I never get to tell you that.
Shout out
Um,
Sax Man.
Shout out to Sax Man. It just other fun fact. Anybody else? I'm a gamer. I stream. I stream on Twitch. You can find me the same name, Infinite7 Sound.
Infinite 7 sound and Infinite 7 games. I love it.
Yep, yep.
Well, all right, man. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find your music and how they can support you?
All right, everybody. You can find my music on all the major streaming platforms from Spotify, Apple Music, um, SoundCloud, at Infinite7 Sound. I keep the name the same across all platforms so it can be easy to find me. Highway 2 is out right now. I'm actually in the works right now, creating a maybe a 6 song project. It's gonna have interludes in the track. So when you do hear Highway 2 on this project, I'm gonna put you in a little secret. It's gonna be a little different because I'm gonna spice it up a little bit to make everything, flow together.
That sounds awesome, man. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down.
Thank
This
you.
whole artist spotlight thing is just an idea that we started running with, and we get to hear all kinds of cool music all the time. So it's really
Definitely.
nice to be able to put a spotlight on you, man. You do it.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for giving me the opportunity.
All right, man. You have a good night.
You too.